this week, I want to continue on a little bit of our conversation from last week with a focus on courage. Because Kenyatta, you gave a great story last week about your own experience where some of the employees heard your boss basically say, she's only here because of affirmative action. And that ultimately resulted in her boss being fired. But the thing that struck me, Kenyatta, is that nobody in that group had courage. And by that, I mean, none of them stood up to your boss and said, hold it, what do you mean? And to ask that question, to, hear what she has to say, and then potentially come back and say, hey, that's not Kenyatta I know. She's a smart woman, and we're fortunate to have her on our team. That's where courage comes in trying to build better race relationships.
Something that I read that kind of hopefully is a bright spot in courage and talking about workplaces, especially if you do work outside of your home. And they were talking about the end of the manager that basically manages by fear. And I think that's why a lot of people don't speak up.
I have a question, and it's along the lines of courage. At what point do you decide that you're going to speak up when you see something that's not right?
I mean, I don't know. I can't stomach the idea of keeping my mouth shut and not doing what's right. And actually, I had something my husband wrote to my son for his 18th birthday, and he knows how I feel about these things, but I'm going to try not to cry. He said, courage means doing what is right even when it's difficult. And I think I'm so proud that we're raising our kids to do the right thing even when it's uncomfortable. And I do love everything about like Brene Brown and her books, Dare to Lead, and a couple other ones about teaching us to have compassion and empathy for others. And guess what? It's not easy and it's uncomfortable. But guess what? Being uncomfortable brings about growth and change. And that's where we are.
My name is Helen.
Hi.
And, to have courage, sometimes it's for yourself too. And last Thursday, I had to stand up for myself. And I'm a strong woman. I'm like Lila, I'm woo and this. But I actually went into this call without judgment, because that's what we do sometimes, because we want what we want, but then we are judging what the other person is going to react. And then we defend it. So I didn't have to defend it. I had to stand up for myself. So that was courage. I stepped into myself and what I wanted just to put through without defending it. So that's maybe what we have to do in our workplace too, because we have to look after ourselves first. That's the way we can look after others. But we have to stand up for ourselves. And that might not be what other people are going to agree with us. And it's hard. It is hard. It takes a lot of courage.
And one of the tenets of leadership should be courage to deliver a hard message, power, respect, to empower other people. But the one thing that you see behind the scenes when you pull back the curtain to most leaders is fear. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of delivering a message that doesn't land correctly. And I think a lot of times leaders, and I've seen this and I posted on this, what I'm seeing out of a lot of leaders today is not courage, but they're leading from an opposite place of, I'm afraid of making the wrong decision. I'm afraid of making something worse than what it is. I'm afraid that if I do this, my team won't respond in the right way. But a great leader pushes fear aside and says, it doesn't matter what happens. I believe in myself, the message, the method, and mostly the people.
I mean, I can remember back when I posted about the video that I'd seen on Facebook that was so just disheartening, shortly after George Floyd died, and you have people who, and I think this really speaks to our need as thought leaders and as people who want to help encourage even the younger generation on what it means to act in an intentional manner, to act in a manner that is full of courage, to fight against the desire to want to do things that are really distasteful. I mean, I saw something on Facebook that was very distasteful, and I posted about it on LinkedIn. And I'll tell you, for half a minute, I was not going to post that video that I made, because I thought to myself, oh, great, people are going to watch this and they're going to think, wow, here's another Black person making a comment about, you know, everything that's going on, and they really need to just be quiet. So I did not know what kind of response I was going to get, but I was so passionate. And I think that plays into with our courage. When we need to step up and say something, we need to step up and do something that may be difficult. I think the level of passion that you have behind you kind of helps to power you forward.
I mean, most leaders of very successful companies have people behind them helping them with their messaging, which Lila would understand. In fact, I had a reputation management issue with a client, you know, a couple months ago, and you know, they need help. Some CEOs just need help about what is appropriate, what's not appropriate. And in fact, I was also listening to Nora O'Donnell in a podcast. She's a anchor woman for CBS this morning. And she said, no, before I make a statement about anything, I think really hard about it. And I have my inner circle help me, my inner sanctum. Because if you're going to make a statement and you want it to be kind of evergreen, or you want to be proud of it forever, you need to be very thoughtful and careful about what you're saying.
It's all about starting here. Self-courage, self-love, self-care. It's easy to be courageous for somebody else. It's a challenge to be courageous for yourself. When you manage that, you can be courageous for anything else. It all starts here.
Yeah.
And it is all about mindset and how we look at life, and having a positive attitude and a positive perspective and having hope rather than fear. It all starts here. It doesn't come from the outside. It comes from here.
Courage for yourself, asking for help from somebody else. So if you get yourself into a situation that's uncomfortable, that's where you may need to have courage to say to somebody else, hey, this is really making me uncomfortable. And they can come to your, rally around you and support you and help you, and maybe exert that courage that's needed to affect that situation.
I was going to say that courage needs to come within. And I think people that are introverts have a harder time doing that because they don't want that confrontation. So what you just said, it goes along with my thoughts that if you need courage, you can reach out to some other people to assist you with what you're trying to do.
Courage is a mindset word for sure, but then it also turns into an action word very quickly. So for me, for the self, like courage is self-respect in action. For leadership, we spoke about that a little bit too. For me, courage in that sense is passion in action. And then in the society sense of things, it's courage is empathy in action. Because, all of us have gone through certain experiences where we have had people stand up for us, or we have been standing up for them. The actual emotion that triggered that action in us is empathy, and that requires a lot of courage.
Being the mindfulness era, that we are the most mindful that we've ever been, but we are also more connected than we've ever been. Like these kind of conversations weren't happening 50 years ago, 20 years ago. I mean, really. And I believe they were happening last year, but because of 2020 and what has happened, it has been accelerated. And so now I get to see great people. I met everyone in my life that has impacted my life on LinkedIn. I mean, what the heck is going on here? I haven't left my house. I'm so happy for conversations like this. I just want to sit back and listen. And I'm just thankful to be, alive right now and able to do something, to be a part of it.